Hi, this is Dan, and this is as a pickup from where I left off in my introduction. This is like introduction part 2. After I was walking out of the hospital with the X-ray and just holding the X-ray up and looking at the picture of the X-ray in my hand, you'd never think that how much material could you put together or could you write about a middle finger or having a middle finger experiences throughout your life. How much material do you think you could put together? Now I looked on the internet, for example, and I Google searched middle finger products, middle finger pictures, and I found there's over 79 million websites related to middle finger pictures, middle finger products, whatever. 79 million, and I was just surprised. I never thought there'd be that much information out there. But going back to in growing up with this type of a natural birth defect, I often kind of wondered how I could have been born like this. I mean, I really didn't know. And back in the 50s and the 60s, families and people did not talk about this kind of stuff. In fact, even going back and when I had conversations with my mother about what was it like, what happened the day that I was born back in February 1947. And I asked her, my mother's still, mother's still here with me today. She's in her mid to late 80s right now. And she said, when I was born, I'm the firstborn son. When I was born, the nurses didn't even bring me to my mother until the second or third day after I was born, because the nurses did not know how to tell my mother what kind of birth defect that I had. They kept me, and she couldn't understand by the second day why they never brought me as a baby to my mother. Well, actually, that curiosity going on, I don't even know when I came to the realization that my hand was different than other kids. Probably as a young age, but since it was always been with me, and those family and friends that have been around me never made any kind of issue about it. That's just the way that things were. I just learned to grow up with it, and learn to deal with it. But as I got older, I often kind of wondered, because in realizing that I knew my dad was in the Marine Corps, I knew my dad was in World War II, and after he had passed away, I kind of kept wondering exactly what did he do during the war. And I happened to get a copy of his military records, and I found out that he was in Okinawa, that he was in Saipan, and then he was also on Tinian Island. Now, Tinian Island is where the Enola Gay was stationed, and the Enola Gay took off, and that's where the atomic bombs were delivered to the Marine Corps from the transport Indianapolis. And Indianapolis has quite a history to it, too. So anyway, my dad was on Tinian Island, and he was at that particular time of his tour, he was involved with Air Corps and air transportation, and he had access to airplanes. He was around in airplanes. So, long story short, I'm not going to go into a lot of that. You can look on the website about, it's part of that story about my dad and his military experience, but I often kind of wondered about it. And after my dad died, maybe 6 months, maybe within the year after my dad passed away, I started doing some correspondence to find out what did he do during the war. And there were stories about what my dad did during the war. They're going around in the family, but there was nobody. It was just stories. There was nothing. Nobody ever dug into it. And then I found out that my dad had occasion, according to what he said, had occasion to go to Japan and look at what the Marines did to end the war with Japan. And I got the information that I've gathered it totally indicates to me that my birth defect is a direct result of my dad being exposed in some form or fashion in some place of the radiation of the atomic bombs, either Hiroshima or Nagasaki. It makes no difference to me because he was there, because I understand also he went to some place that he wasn't supposed to go, he had radiation burns because he went to some place he wasn't supposed to go, and he was almost dishonorably discharged from the Marine Corps because of his injuries of being exposed to this radiation. So subsequently, I had, back about 25 years ago, I had written some letters to some Veterans Association to try to find out what exactly there was as far as study material or was concerned about what happened back that time and place in world history. And the material I got back, I just threw into a file related to, well, there may be, Mr. Holmes, there may be something to do with what your dad did during the war, but by law, there's nothing we can show, there's nothing we can evidence to the fact of what exactly your dad did. So, fast forward again, when I left the hospital, when I had this x-ray done in my hand, when I left the hospital with this x-ray, it kind of stimulated me in my thinking process to get back into doing some research. And I did some research, and I started digging and started digging. And that's when I put together what you see in front of you here. I got 7 binders of books that I put together on what I've written, what I've collected, and what I had all put together related to what had happened to me and my birth characteristics, my birth hand. A lot of this has to do with the history of what happened during that particular time in my dad's military experience. This is a booklet I put together, Atomic Veterans, what they call the Atomic Veterans. Those that had the experiences around the atomic bomb, both in the testing and also what happened in the occupation forces in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is my dad. This is my dad's military records here into where he was. This is his pictures, his group pictures, pictures of where he was on the island. This is some of the correspondence that I had with different government agencies about what happened. This is my dad's military records, his flight records, where he was. In fact, he was even cited for bravery on Okinawa, which is what he never talked about. Even grew up as a kid, there was nothing ever talked about. In fact, the only thing that I really know about this when my dad was alive was conversations I used to overhear. So that anyway, I had collected all this from the Veterans Administration, my dad's military records. This is some of the products market research that I did as far as other products that are related to middle finger products, and this stuff is all over the place. I mean, I was amazed at how many products there are out there related to middle finger and how much stuff is being sold out there with the negative gesture. You know, I don't think like this. I was born like this, and I've turned this into positive energy. This is not negative energy. This is negative energy. This is positive energy over here. This particular book I put together, this is more of I did a market analysis of what other type of middle finger products are available on the market. Oh, this is a picture, the only other picture I could find on the internet about the opposite of my hand. I mean, this is the total opposite of what my hand is. And then these are other different products that are related to my hand. One interesting, I dropped it down here. Early part this year, I thought since my hand was so unique and I didn't see it anywhere in all the studies that I did, I actually applied for a copyright. And having had 2 personal conversations with the Copyright Office about my copyright application. And subsequently, because of my filing and because of these conversations, the Copyright Office has also agreed the hand image is totally unique, it is totally copyrightable, and they issued a copyright now about 4 weeks ago now. And this kind of tickled me too, that I actually got a copyright on my hand. Let's see where this goes. This ought to be fun. I did some studies on called digitus impudicius in the law, and this is the case law related to this condition over here. This condition over here is by law is related to digitus impudicius. You know, what they call the imprudent finger. Digit impudicius is imprudent finger. And by digitus impudicius, by the case law over here, long story short on that, this shows here in this 86 page case law, digitus impudicius is I have the First Amendment right of free speech to use digitus impudicius as a form of my speech. Then, this is what I call, this is the mother lode here, this book over here. And this is 160 pages. This is everything related to the material that I put together in resourcing my experiences that haven't been born like this. And you can see I even went back to my mother and into the family albums to look for all my baby pictures and to find out, what exactly, what baby pictures were available, tell my story, my birth certificate. And you can go online, and I even put together chart graphs to show exactly what happened, where my dad was, and what was happening at the time he was at certain places in the Marine Corps. And of course my timeline of when I was conceived, when I was born. A lot of this there's too much material here for discussion. I'm not going to go through all this, but that's that picture I told you about that I ripped in half with my first grade teacher. There's just too much material in here to go through that I'm not going to go through, but this is my study material that I put together to construct the website that you see here. This is my learning process of going through building the website, and then all of the slogans that you see are related to the t-shirts that I put together. All of the slogans have a story behind them. And in this book here, I put together basically over 50 stories related to my t-shirts. And every one of these stories is related to the experience that I've had with my hand. Every single one of them. I didn't pull this stuff out of the air. This is all what happened to me over my entire life. You can't make this stuff up. When you take, if you take the middle finger, how in the world, how would you make a story around this other than the fact of giving somebody this middle finger gesture? But unless you've lived this for 60 years and understood what it's like to be born like this, to experience, to deal with people that are misunderstandings, and use your positive mental attitude to take your physical property and your experiences and relating this into humor, you wouldn't know what this is like. And that's where these stories came from. All these stories that I put together here, all these applications of these stories, the t-shirts, the different posters I put together, even considering putting on a postage stamp and all the other different applications of billboards. I've written some, I've just written a lot of stuff that I put on the website. Everything in here is absolutely related to my hand. I hope you enjoy my website and the information. I look forward to hearing from you all. And the only thing I ask from you is just help me spread the story. Let's go out there and let's see what we can do about taking the power and the negative energy associated with giving people this middle finger, and let's turn this into a joke. Y'all gonna help me? I look forward to it. Thanks.